Today is September 11th, 2015. My name is Edna Sussman. I'm a reference librarian here at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library. We are interviewing Robert A. Frank, a World War II Army Air Force veteran, as part of our Veterans Testimonial Project and in collaboration with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Thank you so much, Bob, for your service and for being here today and participating in our project.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Bob, where and when were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn in 1923.
And you remember the date was of your birthday?
11/12/23.
Okay, good. And what did your parents do? What were their names and what were their occupations?
Well, my mother's name was Lillian, and my father was at one time a milkman, and then he became part of the union for the milk companies in New York.
Mm-hmm. And what was his name?
His name was Henry.
Henry. And did your mom, was she a stay-at-home mom, or she worked, or?
No, she was stay-at-home.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you have siblings?
I had one brother.
And what was his name?
His name was Thomas,
mm-hmm.
and he died in World War II.
Oh, I'm sorry. What branch was he in?
He was in the paratroopers.
Wow. Do you know what year he passed away during the war, in service, right?
Yeah.
When was that?
I think it was like in 94, 95, as I recall. Some date I don't like to think about.
Sure, okay. Now, what were you doing before you entered the service?
I just had gotten out of high school, and I had a job at as a, what the hell did I do?
Soda jerk.
Soda clerk, right.
Oh, soda jerk, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going back. Okay. So, and that was in Brooklyn?
No, that was in Queens.
Queens. Do you recall how old were you when you entered the military? I guess 1942, right? So
yeah, 1942. I was
19. Which branch of the service did you serve again?
In the Air Force.
That was part of the Army then?
That was part of the Army at the time.
Okay.
It wasn't a standalone union.
Uh-huh. Now, did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Why did you choose that particular branch?
Well, I really wanted to fly a plane.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah.
Had you ever done it before?
No. And they had sort of cut that off because a lot of people with more experience in the airline business as I was, which I had no experience in the airline business, but they were practically filled up with they weren't looking for pilots anymore.
They weren't looking for pilots?
No. They had as much as they could use.
But some of the people that got into the Army Air Force, not all of them flew planes.
That's right.
But you wanted to fly a plane.
I did, but I never did.
Oh. So we'll get to that. What happened when you departed for training camp and during your early days of training? Do you recall?
Well, in the early days of training, I was sort of in the Army, and at one point while I was in the Army, they asked if anybody had previously tried to become part of the Air Force. And I answered yes to that,
mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, I was in the Air Force.
Huh. Wow, you must have been happy. You must have been happy that...
Oh, yeah. Very happy about that.
And where did you go for training? Where are you located?
Down in Florida.
Oh.
I forget the name of this. There was a big,
It was like an Air Force base?
there was a big Air Force base. I don't exactly remember where now.
Okay, that's fine. Do you recall any of your instructors? What were they like in basic training? Okay, I'm sorry we had a battery problem. We're back with Robert A. Frank, an Army Air Force veteran of World War II. And we were talking, Bob, about in basic training in Florida, some of your instructors. Do you recall what they were like?
Well, not really, because they didn't do basic training. We marched there. We were not allowed to sing before 7 o'clock in the morning because it woke up a lot of the people that were visiting Florida in the wintertime.
Oh.
That was civilians.
Oh, I see. Now, what sort of things did you learn? Didn't you have to learn how planes operate and what to do? And what did they teach you in basic training?
Well, they put together, after a while, they put together people from different areas and set it up for crews. They, you had a pilot, a navigator, a co-pilot, there was 10 people in the crew.
For each plane, you mean?
Pardon?
For each plane or in your group in training?
Well, 10 people for in each plane.
Uh-huh.
And they flew the planes. We had target practice from the planes. After we learned how to use the equipment and the machine guns or something, and we took courses in almost everything you could think about that could shoot. Pistols, rifles, automatic weapons and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. We learned all of those things. So in any event that, regardless of what happened, you'd still be able to, protect yourself.
Right, right. So you actually, being in World War II from 1942 to 1945, you were in the midst of combat.
That's true.
Once you were done with basic training in Florida, then where did you go? Did you go right abroad, or?
Well, we went to a base in, we went to a base.
Colorado.
In Colorado?
Yeah, Colorado.
What was that for?
For more training.
Uh-huh.
And more practice with flying and, using the machine guns in the plane.
So you had to know how to fire these weapons from the plane?
Yeah, yeah. I was a tail gunner.
You were a tail gunner?
Yeah. There was 2 .40 caliber machine guns in the tail that I used, and the pilot, co-pilot, navigator, and a what the hell was
radio?
Yeah, radio.
How could you fire? You fired these weapons, but you were pretty high up in the air.
Oh yeah.
So you were firing at what?
Well, they would be other fighter planes that pulled the targets back at them. I mean, a good distance in back of them, so nobody was going to shoot the lead target back.
So you fired at enemy planes that were nearby?
No, none of that. We fired at U.S. planes that were being pulled by another airplane. There was nobody in it.
Oh. Oh, as you mean for practice, when you were in training?
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Were the planes you ended up flying in during the service, were they bombing also? They were bombers?
Oh yeah. I was a tail gunner in a B-24 bomber.
What does a tail gunner do actually?
Well, he gets to sit in the back of in the back of the aeroplane.
Okay.
And fires mostly out of the back, or some little bit to the sides of the plane itself. But we had four or five different gunners in a B-24.
Mm-hmm. How many crew did you say there were? 10 on
10.
each? B-24 would hold 10. You'd have 10 crew.
Yeah.
What other specialized training did you did photography? Was that part of your training too, or that was an interest?
That was an interest more than anything else.
Did you use it during the war at all?
Very, very seldom. I think on 2 flights I did some photography of flying and trying to see in the photographs whether or not the targets were hit by the bombardiers.
Oh, I see. Below, on the ground.
Yeah, because we flew up about 25,000 feet.
Wow.
And we dropped from there.
So, okay, after basic training, and then you went to Colorado for more training, then...
And met the crew, the rest of the crew. That's where the crew all got together.
In Colorado?
Yeah, from their different schools that they had been in to teach, to learn what they're supposed to be doing.
And then you left for abroad with this crew, or what?
Yeah, we went abroad on a ship. We didn't fly across. We went on a French liner.
From California or New York? Or?
From New York. And we went over to Italy. We landed in the west coast of Italy, and then we took a truck over to the east coast where the base was, and we met the people on that base, the other pilots and gunners and stuff like that.
Was that pretty much your base for the whole time you were there?
Yes.
In Italy? Did you go to other... I mean, you would go on a plane and then come back to base in Italy?
Yes, yeah. Cerignola, I think, was the town that we were in.
Okay. So, how was it adapting to military life? The food and the barracks and the regimen, physical regimen?
Well, if you talk to anybody after they got out of the service, they will tell you it was the best thing they ever did in their life, because everything was different and exciting to do, and you got out of it alive. You were very, very happy about that.
Did you feel that way? That it was a good experience?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Were you afraid? You weren't afraid?
Not really. Not really.
How was now the barrack? You had barracks in Italy. What was that like?
Say that again, please.
Your base, you stayed in barracks. Was it like a tent or?
Little tents.
Tents.
Yeah. And each crew had their own, the pilots and the officers. There were 4 officers and 6 enlisted men. They all sort of hung around together, but they didn't stay in the same barracks together.
Or the officers?
The officers were there in their own barracks, and we had the corridor, the 6 guys.
In one tent?
1 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was probably no time for social life, or was there?
There was, because you didn't fly every day. You flew maybe every 3rd day, sometimes every 2nd day, because there were a lot of crews at the base, and there's a certain number of targets that you had to go after. But that was all done on a weekly basis. You maybe had 2 to 3 flights a week to go to.
And where did your flights? Where did they go?
We went to the northern part of Italy. That was still occupied by the Germans, and Ploesti, and I forget exactly what country that Ploesti is in, but it was a big oil area. So we went. One of the things they decide, if they can keep the enemy from mining oil, they won't be able to fly anywhere, or they won't be able to drive their trucks anywhere.
Right.
So it was a big deal to fly and bomb oil plants and factories and things of that nature, rather than to go after individual enemy planes.
Oh, I see. Well, I guess you covered more ground with the oil factory, had much more effect.
Yeah, Ploesti was a big place. I think we did 2 or 3 flights over there to try to reduce their oil output.
What kind of, that was all combat action. Was your plane ever hit?
A couple of times we had to land over in,
Yugoslavia.
Oh, in Yugoslavia?
Yeah, right.
And how did you get out of there?
Well, we took care of the plane. The plane had gotten hit by some flak.
It was damaged?
It was damaged a little bit, so they took care of that damage and put enough oil or gasoline in the plane that we were able to fly back to our base.
Oh. Were you injured? Was anyone injured?
Not on our crew.
How did you witness a lot of destruction or casualties or during your time there?
Well, you took pictures of the bomb drops and make sure, or not to make sure, but to determine where the bombs fell and whether they hit their targets properly.
From that high altitude, you could...
Oh, yeah.
I guess it was military equipment that you could hone in on, zoom in on.
Yeah, there was a big camera that flew with
in every plane?
Not in every plane, but in every group.
Did you use that camera? Were you in?
Once or twice. Yeah.
What kind of? So were able to see the destruction that was happening down on the ground?
You could tell, yeah, it was very small, but that's the one reason they wanted to get the photographic.
A record of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
What kind of friendships and camaraderie did you form while serving, and with whom?
Well, it's very close because you don't know whether you're going to see the people the next day or not, or whether they're going to be, what the hell am I thinking about? Unheard by anything. I still see a bombardier that I flew with. I still see him once a year down
Really?
in Florida.
Oh, how wonderful.
And,
He was with you in the plane?
oh yeah. Yeah. What's his name?
Like Ross Smith.
Ross Smith. Yeah.
Nice. You keep in touch.
He lives in Pennsylvania. So we see each other once a year down in Florida.
Nice.
He's the guy up here.
When you were stationed then abroad, how did you stay in touch with family and friends from home?
Just by letter writing.
You did. You wrote letters?
Yeah.
Were you able to get mail from them?
Yes. Yeah.
Did it take a long time, or how did you get that? Being up in the air and on an Italian base.
They knew what they knew by code. The parents did it like that, where to write, because they would never tell. You would never tell them exactly where you were.
You weren't allowed to do that.
No.
So your return address wouldn't say exactly. It'd be like a foreign post office or something.
Yeah, because they went to a post office, a U.S. post office, Army or Air Force post office, and they got distributed that way.
Did you have time for any off-duty time for recreation? And if you did, what did you do there that you'd like to share?
Yeah, yeah, because you flew maybe every third day.
So what did you do in the off days?
Go around looking for women
In the town?
in the town.
How were the Italian people with you, with the American soldiers?
There was always a distinct wall, I
Really?
guess it was, between us and the natives. Although they would tell you that in the beginning of the World War II, the Italians, that's where we were, the Italian company, or the Italian nation, was fighting with Germany.
Right.
And you could never find any Italian guy that ever admitted that they fought against the United States. They all fought against Germany, but that's not the way it really happened. But they never admitted to that.
So you felt that from the natives. They had this distance because of that. Huh. So when you went into town, did you eat in the town? You ate in the local Italian places, or you ate on base always?
No, we could get food in town. Food wasn't too bad.
How was the food on base?
What can how can you say anything about that? It kept you alive.
Okay. Did you have enough of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other memories of your combat there? You were there almost 3 years. Did you come home in between?
No,
So for 3 years you were abroad?
I don't think we were.
No.
What are you doing?
I was just saying you weren't abroad all that time.
It says on your form November 1942 to October 1945.
Well, that's what it was, the service.
Service. So what part of that was spent abroad?
Oh, boy.
It looks like you were in Italy,
Yeah.
Cerignola.
Uh-huh.
Is that part of Italy?
Yeah.
And Africa. You were in Africa?
We landed in Africa, and we sort of chased Rommel out of Africa
Ah. How did you do that?
by bombing him.
What country was that? You were
It was
like the Sudan or
over
Egypt?
Turkey, sort of over and around Turkey.
Uh-huh. Now, you were stationed in Italy, but then you sometimes flew to Africa? No.
No, we flew from Africa, and we did one or two bombing runs from Africa, but then we moved over to Italy
Uh-huh.
and did the rest of all our bombing runs from there.
Oh, I see. Do you recall your time in Africa? How was that?
Very short,
Oh, yeah.
very short time.
Okay. So you had campaigns, you were in the Balkans also? It says Balkans.
I think that's where Rommel was,
Okay.
and we went after him. Maybe one or two bombing runs. That's about all.
Okay. So your rank, your highest rank was a staff sergeant. What did you go in as?
As a private,
As a private, and you advanced up to staff sergeant.
yeah.
How were your duties different as a?
Well, you didn't have to do any. Well, when you got to be on a crew, you never had to do any KP or anything like that. But when you first went into the service, that's, I think, the first thing they taught you.
KP?
How to handle KP.
What did that didn't involve cooking? It was a cleanup mainly, or what?
Yeah, mostly clean up stuff. They had big.
Vats of food?
Yeah, that was down in Florida
Okay.
where we did that.
So not so much when you were in Europe.
No, once I got to be on the crew, I didn't have any KP any longer.
I see. Any other memories of the combat experience you'd like to share? You were injured?
No, I was very fortunate about that.
Some hearing loss or?
I don't think so. Well, I may have. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I still get some. What the hell do I get from the state, from the,
Pension, I guess.
yeah,
A
pension?
military pension, but also because you might have lost some hearing because of
Yeah.
the... I would imagine it was pretty loud on the plane, no?
Oh, it is, yeah, it was.
And with the bombing and the guns?
Well, you don't hear the bombing because you're
It falls.
2,500 feet or 25,000 feet up above.
But the guns must have been pretty loud.
Yeah.
Where were you when the war ended?
I was in Capri,
Oh, nice, right?
the Isle of Capri. I went over there for a week's rest.
Oh,
They set you over there, and that's where the war was ended,
how did you get there from your base?
by truck.
Oh, they took you there with some other military staff
Yeah. Yeah,
for a whole week?
a whole week. Yeah.
It was a Gracie Fields mansion. That's where he was.
What?
The name of the place that you stayed it was Gracie Fields Mansion.
In
yeah.
Capri? It was in Capri?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, when you heard the war was over, then how long did it take till you were able to, they returned you to the States?
Not very long, as a matter of fact.
So you went back to base, and then how did you get home?
We flew home
Uh-huh.
from there. Well, we flew from there to Africa, from Africa to the Azores, and from the Azores to where the hell?
Did you go to New York directly?
No, we went to Massachusetts.
Oh, Norfolk? Or there's a naval base there, but...
Yeah.
Oh, that's in Rhode Island. Never mind.
Pardon?
Norfolk, Rhode Island is the naval base, but you went to Massachusetts first and then came back to New York?
Yeah.
How were you received by your family and community?
Well, I think that there was, a certain amount of... My brother was killed around that time.
Towards the end of the war?
Yeah.
Had you seen him when you were over in Europe?
No.
No.
He was in the paratrooper.
Uh-huh.
And he was up, I think they flew out of England.
Uh-huh.
And I got a letter from my father telling me that my brother had been killed.
Oh, really? The Army didn't tell you when it happened?
No. But that got me home very quickly because there was some rule about if one of your brothers got killed, when you got down to the last retired, the last
Surviving
son was basically
discharged?
discharged.
I see. So it went a little quicker because of that. So it was kind of mixed when you came home. It was sad because...
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was.
How did you readjust to the civilian life?
Very quickly.
Really?
Yeah.
And what did you do once you got back? Before you left, you finished high school and were working. So when
I worked as a soda jerk.
Right. So when you came back and you were out of you didn't re-enlist in the military.
No. An uncle of mine was he worked for the city
Of New York?
of New York. And he knew I was interested in drawing stuff. And he got a job for me as a person that could work in their...
Draftsman.
Draftsman?
Yeah. And I worked as a draftsman, and I went to school at night.
To learn that better?
Become an architect. And that's what I did in life after that.
You were an architect?
Well, we never did any buildings or anything like that because the company I work with, what the hell am I trying to say?
Office planning.
Yeah, office.
Oh,
yeah.
planning.
Planning office space in
uh-huh.
new buildings or whatever.
Uh-huh. Now, have you remained in contact, other than this fellow who lives in Pennsylvania, any of the other veterans?
Erling
Not
Kingdom.
really. Erling Kingdom, this guy, he was
radio man.
Yeah. But he talked about things that didn't interest anybody else. He would tell you about who graduated from the school over in, where the hell did he live?
Minnesota.
What?
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Was he in your crew
Yeah.
on the plane?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So who was interested in what his crew, what his friends did in Minnesota when they were going to school and stuff like that? And he got into terrible detail about that stuff. So we don't talk to him anymore.
What about other, any veterans organizations? Are you a member of any? Or were you,
Not really.
once you left? No?
I'm not a joiner, I don't think.
Well, you belong to the VA.
Ah. The local Long Island Veterans Administration?
Yeah.
So when you separated from the military, you learned more drafting and office architectural planning type.
Yeah.
How do you think your wartime experiences affected your life?
I really don't know. I really couldn't tell you. Because, I mean, I went from being in the service and then working in Manhattan, and I just see one guy that used to be on the crew with. I see him once a year down in Florida.
Do you think your experiences in the Army, Air Force directly affected the route that your life took with your career?
I don't think so.
No. What are some life lessons you learned from the military, from military service?
Try to be honest about most everything you do.
It's a good lesson.
Why don't you tell the story about the Muskogee Air Group? I think that's a cute story. About the bomber that joined your group and they turned out to be Germans.
Oh, God.
When was this?
Well, we were flying over in Europe. Why don't you tell her? I don't.
Well, they were coming home from a mission, and all of a sudden they noticed a bomber joining the group. And the pilot looked at the plane. He wasn't quite happy with it, so he radioed him to ask him what the password was for the day. And they gave the wrong password.
On purpose? On purpose?
No.
They
No.
didn't know it.
Oh.
In the meantime, when their mission, the bombers, came home, the Muskogee Air people were their protection, to see that they got home safely.
They were black.
Servicemen?
Yeah. And so he said, he radioed the plane and said, you better land with us, otherwise I'm going to shoot your
ass off.
Wow.
And so when they landed, they found out it was a German group who had fixed in their B-24, and I guess they wanted to join the group to...
They wanted to find out where the base was.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
where the
The
spy
bombers.
was.
Well, how did that end up? I mean, so then were they taken prisoner or what?
Oh, yes.
They were.
Yeah.
So they didn't get to relay the information to the enemy?
No, not that we know of.
Wow. How did they infiltrate like that?
Well, they put together they had a lot of damaged B-24s. And from their guns, and they put together enough equipment from a B-24 that they could make it fly again.
This is the enemy,
Yeah.
the Germans.
Yeah. And they would fly to find out where the base is, so they could bomb it.
Was your base ever bombed?
No,
Wow. So
not
you,
while I was there anyway.
so you were able to get the United States protected the base well enough so it didn't get hit.
Yeah.
How do you think your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general?
Well, I never thought about joining the, going back to the service again, the Army Air Corps.
Why is that?
I just wasn't interested in doing the same thing.
Well, how did you feel about the military and the war in general after separating from the military?
I was glad to get out alive.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing I can think of right now.
How do you feel about the military now?
Well, it's not for me, but it's necessary for the country.
Is there anything you did that you regretted at the time while you were in the service?
No, I mean, I think, as with most guys that were overseas or in the service at all, I think they were anxious to protect the country so that they could go back to their lives and live peaceful lives after that.
Is there anything you feel we haven't discussed or you'd like to add? Any incident that happened that you'd like to share?
Well, there's a couple in this, but I'm not going to share.
You're not going to share them. Okay, that's the deal. And lastly, what message would you like to leave for future generations who might hear this interview or see it?
Well, as I've said to a couple of younger people
Yes.
that are part of the family, that being in the service was not a bad thing to go into, because it taught you a lot of stuff about how about how the service went, but it was also important for them to learn how to do things properly.
So you learned good things, lessons.
Yeah. I mean, I think you still remember all the stuff that you did, and whether you think you did the right thing or you didn't do the right thing. But it gives you a new outlook on life.
Okay. Anything else we haven't covered you might like to, you can think of? No?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for your service, most of all, and for being here today and sharing with us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You didn't